Mr. Sergeant of Arms, invite the members into the chamber and close the doors. I hereby declare the House of Representatives of the 112th General Assembly of the State of Tennessee now in session. Will the members please stand? Will the visitors in the gallery please stand and remain standing through the Pledge of Allegiance? Representative Sparks will introduce the chaplain of the day. Representative Sparks.
Thank you, Speaker. Thank you, members. Members, before I introduce our pastor, just want to read the First Amendment to you. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people to peaceably assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. You may wonder, why are you sharing the First Amendment? First Amendment's there for a reason. That's why it's first. It's not second, it's not third, it's not fourth or fifth. It's first a reason. Seeing this pastor, they sold their church last year on Smyrna Parkway. Father bought it years ago, had a vision to buy that property. When he sold the property, they purchased it by the acre. When they sold it by the square foot. So that vision turned out to be pretty prosperous for them, needless to say. So they moved down the road, not far from my church, and it took them 11 months to get a temporary permit for 180 days. I want you to think about that. It took him 11 months to get a permit for 180 days for his church. Got a tent built, nice tent, pretty progressive looking tent, got 8 AC systems. And one thing I want to mention about partnering with our faith-based churches and faith-based initiatives and nonprofits, they can help us in the community. I went over there and I filmed what he was doing. It's on YouTube, the river at Smyrna on YouTube. He was being threatened by, I don't know if I need to use the term threatened, but I call it a threat, to lock up your front doors. Front door is going to be chained on his church when his temporary permit ceased to exist. That's local government, not state government. I want to thank the fire marshal, Gary Farley, Mary Beth Gribble for helping them to stay in the church while their other church is being built. But I share this, members, for y'all to pay attention to the First Amendment, because I'll argue it's under attack. It's subtly under attack. Most people don't see it. But thankfully, they did help. And thankfully, he's going to reach many people. One thing that impressed me when I went over there is I watched them, Dr. Love, I watched them help young people. I helped them. I seen them help young parents with a parents' day out, where child care is so expensive today. That's leveraging the faith-based communities, which we need. Pastor Aaron Minnick is the lead pastor at the River in Smyrna, Tennessee. He's a man of many talents and is known throughout the world. Aaron grew up on a tour bus and came to Nashville as a recording session drummer, eventually becoming an owner of the legendary sound shop and recording studios. He has played many drums and sang with some of the biggest music artists, both in recording studios and on television, including an appearance on the Oprah Winfrey Show. While Aaron thought music would be his future, he felt the Lord calling him into full-time ministry. 10 years ago, as his dad would pass the mantle on to him as he retired from the pulpit in 2018. Aaron's heart is serving the community, and his goal is for this generation to come to know Jesus. Pastor Minnick.
Thank you. I'm honored to serve as chaplain today, and it's wonderful to see Rutherford County and Smyrna represented here in the chamber. I want to thank all of you for your dedication to serving. I believe that elected officials do more than just a job or fulfill a term. I believe that this is a calling that you have answered to serve as a leader in your community, and that this position isn't always easy. Being in leadership can be draining. I understand that. It can be lonely, but it can also be rewarding, and your hard work keeps Tennessee safe, prosperous, and thriving, so I thank you. Will you bow your heads in prayer? Heavenly Father, I pray for a fruitful day in these chambers, as it is our responsibility to pray for those in leadership. I ask that your divine wisdom and guidance from the Holy Spirit for these men and women who represent the citizens of our state. We pray that your word, O Lord, is the standard of truth which we hold all things to. We pray, Lord Jesus, that your blood covers our transgressions and cleanses our conscience. We pray that all that we do is done so in love as we emulate your behavior, Lord Jesus, in our lives, our businesses, and our responsibilities. We pray that as we exist in your kingdom, that your peace reigns in this place and that your will is accomplished here on earth as it is in heaven. And we know in order for that to happen, we, your vessels, must submit to your direction. Lord, we pray for those who are halfway across the world who are immersed in grave conflict. We ask for grace and mercy toward those who are innocent, and we pray for wisdom so that our leadership can make the right decisions and that evil will not prevail. I pray a blessing on each servant in this place, Lord Jesus, that you bless them, you keep them, that you cause your face to shine upon them and be gracious to them, and that you lift your countenance toward them and give them peace. We ask these things to be done in the powerful name of Jesus. Amen.
Representative Sparks will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please face the flag. Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Roll call.
Okay.
State Constitution may violate voting rights when that appears more incumbents. Is that good?
Yeah. Ms. Clerk, please take the roll.
Mr. Speaker, 87 members present.
Let the journal reflect Representatives Kumar, Griffey, Powers, Gant, Carr, Farmer, Littleton, McKenzie, and Potts are excused. Next order, Mr. Clerk.
Welcoming and honoring.
Welcoming and honoring Leader Lamberth. You're recognizing the well.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I request that the Sergeant of Arms escort our guest into the chamber.
Ms. Sergeant of Arms, escort the guests to the well, please. Leader Lamberth, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, please join me in welcoming the Tennessee Future Farmers of America to the House floor today, and Congressman John Rose, who has joined us. Y'all give him another round of applause. You know, this is one of my favorite days down here at the Capitol when our FFA students come down and join us. FFA prides itself as a dynamic youth organization that changes lives and prepares members for premier leadership, personal growth, and career success through agricultural education. FFA develops members' potential and helps them discover their talent through hands-on experiences, which gives members the tools to achieve real-world success. Members are future chemists, veterinarians, government officials, entrepreneurs, bankers, international business leaders, teachers, and premier professionals in many, many career fields. The Tennessee FFA Association consists of more than 28,000 FFA members, over 220 chapters. Those chapters are located all over the state, and you probably have a chapter in your district. If you don't, we can fix that real quick. In fact, there are several members of the House that are alumni of this program. I myself wore a blue jacket when I was in high school and was proud to do so. And if you wore that blue jacket with those gold letters on the back, please stand right now. Any of our former FFA members, everybody give them a hand too. At this time, I would like for these young folks behind me to be able to take a minute to introduce themselves and tell us where they're from. Harrison, if you want to lead us off, please. Come on up here, buddy.
Good morning. On behalf of the over 28,000 Tennessee FFA members, I want to say thank you for allowing us to be here this morning. This week is National FFA Week, which is celebrated by our Goodwill Tour across the state of Tennessee to see at many different agricultural commodities and venues across our state. It is also the week of George Washington's birthday, who is not only the first U.S. president or first president of the United States, but also the father of American agriculture. I'm Harrison Falkowski, serving as Tennessee FFA State President this year from the Stewart's Creek FFA chapter in Rutherford County. I'm currently 18 years old, and my agricultural project area is in agri-science research.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Nicholas Bradley, and I'm currently serving as the Tennessee FFA State Secretary for this year. I come from the Lincoln County FFA chapter, which is in Lincoln County, and I'm currently 20 years old, and my project area was diversified crop production.
Good morning, my name is Callie Renner. I'm currently serving as the East Tennessee State Vice President. I'm from Greene County, where I was a member of the South Greene FFA chapter. I'm 20 years old, and my agricultural project area is specialty crop production. Good morning, I'm Kaylee Scott, the Middle Tennessee State Vice President from the Lebanon FFA chapter in Wilson County. I'm 18 years old, and my project area was equine entrepreneurship.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Ethan Hall, and I'm currently serving as the West Tennessee State Vice President. I come from the Scotts Hill FFA chapter in Henderson County. I'm currently 19 years old, and my agriculture project area was swine production.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Sophie Helton, and I'm currently serving as the Tennessee FFA State Treasurer. I'm from the Stone Memorial FFA chapter in Cumberland County. I'm 18 years old, and my project was swan production.
Hello, everyone. I'm Katie McKinney, currently serving as the Tennessee FFA State Reporter. I'm from the David Crockett FFA chapter in Washington County. I'm 18 years old, and my project area was equine science placement.
Good morning, everyone. I am Madison McDonald, and I am from Wilson County. My home chapter is the Wilson Central FFA chapter, and I am serving as the State Sentinel this year for the Tennessee FFA State Officer Team. I am 19 years old, and my agricultural project area is diversified agricultural placement. We are very grateful today to have two guests with us, my representative, Congressman John Rose, and Commissioner Dr. Charlie Hatcher. On behalf of my state officer team, thank you for letting us come and speak to you all and introducing ourselves this morning. And thank you for your continued support in our organization and the future of Tennessee agriculture.
All right. Woo! Please. And Mr. Speaker, if we can hear from one other friend of ours, if Congressman John Rose can come up here and address us. He's part of the sponsorship committee for FFA.
Thank you, Representative Lamberth, and it's a great privilege and honor to be in the House chamber this morning and have the opportunity to address you. Some of you know this, but it was my great honor many years ago to be in FFA as a 4-year member at the Cookeville FFA chapter and later serving as one of the state officers for Tennessee FFA. I want to just end today by thanking you, thanking this assembly and all of the members assembled here today for the support that you provide to agricultural education, to all of our career and technical education programs in Tennessee, and particularly to the future farmers of America here in Tennessee, now the 4th largest FFA association in the country. Thank you, Representative Lamberth, and thank you for the opportunity to address the House.
Thank you all again for welcoming our FFA friends to the floor. And I want you to give one last round of applause for all of our FFA members that are in the gallery today on both sides. Mr. Speaker, if you would be so kind as to join us in the well for a picture, please. And if any of our FFA alumni, if you've worn a blue and a gold jacket, please come down and join us in the well. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Let the journal reflect Representative Freeman is excused. Representative Sparks, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I request that the Sergeant at Arms escort our guests into the chamber.
Mr. Sergeant at Arms, escort the guests to the well, please. Representative Sparks, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If I can get my members, Representative Rudd, Brian Terry, Dr. Baum, come stand with us if we could. This is Smyrna High Choir. Our principal, Dr. Sherry Sutherland. Where's Sherry at? Okay, Sherry, glad to have you. Led by choir director, Mr. Garrett Dew. Choir is Smyrna High School Select Choir.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed
Mr. Speaker, this next song is now the official state hymn of Tennessee. Y'all have all sang it. You've all heard it. I want to tell the story real quick of the hymn. In December 1772 in Olney, England, at the age of 47, John Newton began writing a hymn that would grow increasingly popular over the next 249 years in his song, Amazing Grace. Newton was a former slave ship captain. The Lord looked down on him, turned his life around, and he helped to end slavery by influencing a lawmaker, William Wilberforce. Choir.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. Through many dangers, toils, and snares, I have already come. Disgrace hath brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home. When we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, with no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun.
All right. Amen. Mr. Speaker, can you come down and get a picture with us? Thank you. Thank you, members.
We are under welcoming and honoring Representative Wright.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I really wanted to be under announcements, but since I'm standing up and have the light and hopefully remain with the floor, an announcement. Members of the Veterans Caucus, this coming Monday session, the chaplain of the day will be a chaplain. And I would request that veteran members of the House be here in front of the session so that we might have a picture with the chaplain of the day. Veterans Caucus, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Grills.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We'd like to welcome up here on our right, if you would stand up, Aaron and Rob. Mr. Aaron Spradlin and Rob Teed with Mission America. I thank you, gentlemen, for the great work you do with Mission America, fighting against and rescuing young women from the horrors of sex trafficking. God bless you.
Representative Eldridge.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to take this opportunity to wish my daughter Christina a very happy birthday today, and I love her, and I'm very proud of her. But thank you for that opportunity.
Thank you. Representative Parkinson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, first let me apologize to my colleague, Representative Todd, for having a whole conversation with him, calling him Representative Bricken this morning. And secondly, on a more serious note, this morning an offense to humanity took place in Ukraine. And I would like us to just stand up for a moment for those Ukrainians, those innocent individuals. The number was 40 this morning when I saw the last news report, but I'm sure the casualties have increased. That we here in Tennessee do not agree with what's happening over there with the people of Ukraine, and that we, if we will, take a moment of silence to pray for the people of Ukraine and our troops that are over there, because we do have troops over there in the area also, and any of the NATO troops that are also over there, to guard our interests in the Ukrainian area. If we will, a moment of silence. Amen.
Representative Clement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This morning I rise to honor the life of a Nashville resident, Miss Toulouse Skylar Quinn. She just passed away last week at the age of 42. She was a victim of a terminal form of brain cancer, glioblastoma. She was only diagnosed in 2020. Toulouse was, many of us knew her from the Nashville area. She was the founder of the Nashville Food Project. She founded this organization just over a decade ago with a vision not only to provide emergency relief to the hungry, but also to connect people to food systems and the land in order to remove barriers that keep them undernourished and underfed. The Nashville Food Project delivers over 5,000 nutritious meals per week across our community. She created an ag program that includes a 3-acre farm at Mill Ridge Park, and it has a program called Growing Together, which is a market garden program that supports people who want to sell produce for income and connect people more deeply to food systems. I would encourage everyone to take a look at her life and her biography. It's truly inspiring. She's a Nashville native. She went away to Columbia University to get her master's in divinity and came back here after working down south for a while, and where she gained an appreciation for connecting people to food systems. I would encourage you to read her book, What We Wish Were True, Reflections on a Nurturing Life and Facing Death. I think you'll find it very inspiring. Miss Toulouse Skylar Quinn had a beautiful voice, a beautiful soul, and she leaves a beautiful and bountiful legacy in our community. So if you could rise 1 minute and honor Miss Toulouse Skylar Quinn with a moment of silence, I'd appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Representative Darby.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's great to see all of the blue and gold in the gallery today, and a special thanks to the Westview and Obion County chapters that braved the ice to be with us here today. Thank you.
Representative Calfee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Of course, these young folks here at the FFA are getting training on how to be good citizens. And I'd like to recognize the Lenore City group and their able-bodied leader, Josie Miller. And I say that because every time, not every time, but quite often when you pick up the Farm Bureau newsletter or the Farmers Co-op newsletter, Josie's won another award, and she's a longtime friend of mine, and let's make them welcome. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Doggett.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And members, I have with me today some distinguished guests from Giles and Lawrence County. It is the King's Kids Homeschool Co-op Group. They're sitting right up here if y'all want to stand up. Got a good number of them here. Thank you for coming up on this rainy morning.
Representative Dixie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We were not here on Tuesday, but I wanted to take a second to honor my mother-in-law. She would have been 78. Her birthday was February 22nd. But as we've documented the road that Representative Faison have been down, she was an organ donor, and she saved several lives when she passed away suddenly due to an aneurysm. So I take this time to honor her, but also remind us to sign up to be an organ donor if it's in your heart, because it's very needed. So please think about it and give the gift. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Love.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, we always want to take time out to acknowledge our very competent and able-bodied clerk staff. Amen. Amen. So we have one this morning that it's her last day. Katrin Latham, everybody. It's her last day with us. Her parents up in the gallery, Mary and Shane Latham. If you all will stand, there they are right there. As you know, our clerks keep track of everything. They keep a track of when we show up late and need to have our time adjusted, or when we want to change or vote on the bill. But thank you so much for your service to the people of Tennessee and the House Representatives, and wish you well on your next endeavor.
Thank you. Representative Terry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We will not be in session tomorrow, but I wanted to take this moment to wish my mother a happy 84th birthday. She's had some health issues and been struggling with that, but I think she'd be happy to have us wish her a happy birthday. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Boyd.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And members, if you didn't see yesterday, there were 14 of us in this chamber that took the Spend a Day in My Wheels challenge. And it's very eye-opening. And my hope is that it does bring awareness to people that are wheelchair bound and have to use mobility devices. And so I just wanted to say thank you to our speaker and the other members that joined me yesterday in doing that. And if you've not done that, because we did it a couple of years ago, I hope that when it's done next year, perhaps you'll sign up for that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Representative Kiesling.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We're truly honored today, and I want to bring Representative Wendell in on this. Both he and I want to welcome from Fentress County. They call themselves the Mark Twain chapter, blue and gold, FFA. But they're a group from York Institute there. Our director is Marissa Wright. Our CTE director is Mr. Sam Brown. And we've got one other welcome we want to make, and that is to Macon County. Aaron Walls is here from Macon County. Hi, Mr. Speaker. with his members of Blue and Gold, our FFA folks there. So thank you for this opportunity. Please, let's give them a welcome wherever they are. There they are. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Wendell at Potts' desk. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, could I request my colleague from the city of Byrdstown, Tennessee, to explain to the members of this chamber and our guests why it's called the Mark Twain chapter? I think that's a great story, and I think you should share it with us. Does everybody else agree with me on that?
Is that a moment in history today? Is that what that is? Representative Keisling.
1 minute, Mr. Speaker, or less. Mark Twain, actually, yes, the Mark Twain resided there. And his folks, wasn't it, John? Pick up the mic over there, John. I'm sorry, maybe I've got this wrong.
Dueling legislators. That's a new one on the House floor.
I'm sorry? Oh, okay. Things. All right. Thank you for this opportunity, though. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity that John Mark has to get me embarrassed on this.
Representative Sherrill, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, we want to say a very special welcome to all of our FFA folks that's here today. We appreciate you being here, but just a minute to take an honor. As a speaker, he represents Cumberland County, and the teacher at the Cumberland County FFA is Miss Davis, and she resides in White County. So we want to recognize them, and also we want to recognize White County with Miss Eller and Mr. Moore as they teach in White County. So we want to, if you would, stand up there, and we want to say a very special welcome to all of y'all. Make them welcome, please. Thank you.
Representative Lynn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. FFA, we just love when you are here with us on the Hill. And let me welcome a group from Green Hill High School, Wilson County's newest high school. They're a relatively new chapter. They have Morgan Grannis, their agriculture teacher, with them, and we are so happy to have you here today. Thank you.
Representative Garrett.
There's no way. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm honored today, and I stand here with the Sumner County delegation with Representative Leader William Lamberth and Terry Lynn Weaver. I'd like to welcome those from Sumner County from the FFA chapters of Beach High School, Station Camp, Hendersonville, and White House. If you're up in the gallery, please stand. And I've got a special recognition. I went to elementary school with Brent Young at Beach Elementary, and his daughter is here from Beach, Lillian. So if Lillian, you can hear me, please, there you are. Welcome to the House of Representatives. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Carringer.
Thank you, Speaker. I just wanted to take a moment and wish my husband a very happy birthday. That was this past Wednesday, and he is home helping take care of my mother, which I just want to thank all of y'all for your prayers that she is doing much better, but still has a long road ahead of us. And also to wish one of our colleagues, been calling him the birthday boy all week, but to Representative Campbell, happy birthday.
Thank you. Representative Rudd.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to welcome for all the delegation of Rutherford County, Brian Terry and Charlie Obama and Mike Sparks, all the FFA members from Rutherford County, and also want to welcome Tyler Pilgrim. He is the technical director for FHA for Rutherford County Schools, and he resides in Eagleville in my district. Welcome.
Representative Towns.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, I have to make this announcement. Many of you all know Debbie Giuliani. She lost her husband about a week ago, as well as right before that, she lost her uncle, a significant person that had been in her life for a long time, right as her husband was transitioning as well. The funeral celebration is going to be today at 2 o'clock, for those of you that can, and it's going to be at the Middle Tennessee Veterans Cemetery. Can't get by, obviously, reach out to ensure the compassion that we always show to each other when we're going through these kinds of experiences. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Representative Alexander.
Thank you, Speaker. Representative Hicks and I would like to welcome all those FFA students from Washington County, Tennessee. We thank you for what you do to make agriculture great in Washington County.
Representative Hardaway.
Thank you, Speaker. Colleagues, today is a couple of days after the birthday of the two best sons in the whole wide world, Al Hardaway II and Willis Lincoln Hardaway III. They were both born on February 23rd. However, it was 2 years apart. So please join me in saying happy birthday to those two young men, and most of you have seen them grow up on Capitol Hill. Happy birthday, boy.
Representative Sparks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just want to recognize Pastor Minnick, Aaron Minnick's sons who are in the gallery with us, Hayden and Preston. Please make them feel welcome.
Representative Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What I would like to do at this time is to make sure that we get every FFA group that's here this morning from all 95 counties in the state of Tennessee. We want to make them welcome to the Capitol. If y'all would help me give them a great big hand.
I'm afraid to ask. Any further welcoming and honoring? Representative White, I told you I was afraid to ask.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just one more. And on behalf of all the members to the FFA that are here today, I just want to say thank you, especially from the Education Committee and all the members. Tennessee and all the states are going to be challenged in the future with our workforce, and y'all are such on a pathway already. Thank you for your quality, your caliber, and your studies to make Tennessee a strong state in the future. You're an excellent example for all of our young people. Thank you.
Next order, Mr. Clerk.
Introduction to resolutions.
Lear Lambert, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Move that all resolutions properly filed be introduced pursuant to Rule number 17 and placed on the consent calendar referred to the appropriate standing committee.
Without objection, so ordered. Next order, Mr. Clerk.
Senate Joint Resolutions congratulatory memorializing.
Lear Lambert, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Move that all Senate Joint Resolutions congratulatory memorializing line of the desk be placed on the consent calendar pursuant to Rule number 17.
Without objection, so ordered. Next order, Mr. Clerk.
Resolutions lying over.
Lear Lambert, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Move that all resolutions lying over be referred to the appropriate standing committee.
Without objection, so ordered. Next order, Mr. Clerk.
Introduction of bills, Senate bills on first consideration.
Lear Lambert, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Move that Senate bills 503 and 1,824 transmitted by the Senate be held on the desk pending the consideration of their companion House bills.
Without objection, so ordered. Next order, Mr. Clerk.
Senate bills on second consideration, House bills on second consideration.
Lear Lambert, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that House bills 2,888 through 2,894 be passed on second consideration and be held on the desk or referred to the appropriate standing committee.
Without objection, so ordered. Next order, Mr. Clerk.
Petitions and memorials, reports from standing committees, reports from select committees, calendars. Mr. Speaker, the House has a consent calendar.
Chairman Zachary, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move passage of the consent calendar on third and final consideration in keeping with Rule 50.
Gentleman moves passage of the consent calendar. Properly seconded. Mr. Clerk, any objections have been filed?
Mr. Speaker, no objections filed.
Anyone seeking recognition on the consent calendar? Representative Grills.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wish to request all those voting in the affirmative be listed as co-prime sponsors for the resolution HJR 856.
Without objection, exclusions duly noted. Representative Beck.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Tonight, we're honoring our longtime goalie with the Nashville Predators, Rena Pecorini. And we're going to retire his jersey, and we're having a proclamation for him on the consent calendar after conferring with both leaders. If we can have the Davidson County delegation listed as co-sponsors and everyone voting in the affirmative to be listed also. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Without objection, exclusion is duly noted. Representative Beck, which number was that on the consent calendar, please?
Mr. Speaker, that's SJR 990.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Clerk.
Mr. Speaker, we have an objection on the consent calendar. Item 59, House Joint Resolution 856, has been objected to by Representative Grills.
Any further recognition on the consent calendar? Seeing none. We are voting on the consent calendar. All members in favor vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Ayes 88, no nays.
Having received the constitutional majority, I declare consent calendar passed. I object to the motion. Reconsider is tabled. Next order, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Speaker, the House has a regular calendar.
Call up first bill, Mr. Clerk.
House Bill 1754 by Representative Smith and others relative to teacher licensure.
Representative Smith, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move passage of House Bill 1754 on third and final consideration.
Representative Smith moves passage properly seconded. Mr. Clerk, call up First Amendment.
House Education Administration Committee Amendment number 1.
Chairman White, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This legislation changes the grades that instructors at post-secondary institutions may teach to grades 6 through 12 and requires a letter of recommendation. I move to adopt.
Chairman White moves adoption of amendment number 1, properly seconded. Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none. All those in favor of amendment number 1 say aye, aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. You adopt it. Next amendment, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Speaker, no further amendments.
Representative Smith, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As Chairman White acknowledged, this bill simply attempts to address part of our teacher shortage. Current law permits an adjunct professor or a post-secondary professor to teach in 9 through 12-year-old classes in the K through 12 space. This would expand that down to the 6th grade through the 12th grade. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I renew my motion.
Representative Smith renews her motion. Any discussion on the bill? Any objection to the question? Seeing none. All those in favor of House Bill 1754 as amended, vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed, vote no. As every member voted, does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Ayes 86, no nays.
House Bill 1754 having received a constitutional majority, I hereby declare passed without objection. The motion reconsider is tabled. Call up next bill, Mr. Clerk.
House Bill 1753 by Representative Smith and others relative to assessments.
Representative Smith, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move passage of House Bill 1753 on third and final consideration.
Representative Smith moves passage properly seconded. Mr. Clerk, call up First Amendment.
House Education and Instruction Committee Amendment number 1.
Chairman Moody, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to adopt and defer to the sponsor for explanation.
Chairman Moody moves adoption. Amendment number 1, probably seconded. Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none. All those in favor of amendment number 1 say aye, aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. You adopted. Next amendment, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Speaker, no further amendments.
Representative Smith, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Bill 1753 permits the paper testing to continue through this school year, 21-22, and throughout next calendar school year, 22-23, to address the social anxiety as well as a barrier for some of the students in the 3 through 5 grades. It also protects the the paper testing in grades 5 through 8. And it protects to make sure that this calendar year is permitted for the paper testing, and it directs the Commissioner of Education to review each year whether that's appropriate for the lower grades to return back to paper testing. With that, Mr. Speaker, I renew my motion.
Representative Smith renews your motion. Any discussion on the bill? Seeing none. Any objection to the question? Seeing none. All those in favor of House Bill 1753 as amended, vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed, vote no. As every member voted, does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Ayes 85, no nays.
House Bill 1753 having received a constitutional majority, I hereby declare passed without objection. The motion reconsider is tabled. Call up next bill, Mr. Clerk.
House Bill 1838 by Chairman Sapicki and others relative to the State Board of Education.
Chairman Sabicki, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move passage of House Bill 1838 on third and final consideration.
Chairman Sabicki moves passage, probably seconded. Mr. Clerk, any amendments been filed?
Mr. Speaker, no amendments filed.
Chairman Sabicki, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I renew my motion.
Chairman Sabicki renews his motion. Any discussion on the bill? Seeing none. Any objection to the question? Seeing none. All those in favor of House Bill 1838, vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed, vote no. As every member voted, does any member wish to change their vote? Ms. Clerk, please take the vote.
Ayes 68, 18 nays.
House Bill 1838 having received a constitutional majority, I hereby declare passed without objection. The motion reconsider is tabled. Call up next bill, Mr. Clerk.
House Bill 1693 by Representative Campbell relative to constables.
Representative Campbell, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move passage of House Bill 1693 on third and final consideration.
Representative Campbell moves passage, probably seconded. Mr. Clerk, any amendments been filed?
Mr. Speaker, no amendments filed.
Representative Campbell, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill adds the East Tennessee Constable Association to the list of entities that are eligible to provide in-service education courses and firearms training for constables. I renew my motion.
Representative Campbell renews his motion. Any discussion on the bill? Seeing none. Any objection to the question? Seeing none. All those in favor of House Bill 1693, vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed, vote no. As every member voted, does any member wish to change their vote? Ms. Clerk, please take the vote.
Ayes 84, no nays.
House Bill 1693 having received a constitutional majority, I hereby declare passed without objection. The motion reconsider is tabled. Call up next bill, Mr. Clerk.
House Bill 1685 by Chairman Williams relative to alcoholic beverages. Mr. Speaker, the Senate bill is on the desk.
Chairman Williams, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to substitute and conform to the Senate bill.
Chairman Williams moves substitute and conform to Senate Bill 1824 without objection. So ordered. Chairman Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move passage, Senate Bill 1824.
Chairman Williams moves passage of Senate Bill 1824 on third and final consideration. Properly seconded. Mr. Clerk, call the First Amendment.
Mr. Speaker, no amendments filed.
Chairman Williams, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill would allow the National Soccer Club to transact business in the same fashion that the other professional sports facilities do in our state. With that, I renew my motion.
Chairman Williams renews his motion. Any discussion on the bill? Seeing none. Any objection to the question? Seeing none. All those in favor of Senate Bill 1824, vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed, vote no. As every member voted, does any member wish to change their vote? Doggett and aye. Todd, aye. Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Aye, 69, 12 nays, 4 present, unvoted.
Senate Bill 1824, having received a constitutional majority, I hereby declare passed without objection. The motion reconsider is tabled. Call the next bill, Mr. Clerk.
House Bill 1709 by Chairman Halford. Mr. Speaker, it's a private act relative to revising the tax rate in the Bradford Special School District.
Chairman Halford, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move passage of House Bill 1709 on third and final consideration.
Chairman Halford moves passage. Properly seconded. Mr. Clerk, any amendments been filed?
Mr. Speaker, no amendments filed.
Chairman Halford, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, House Bill 1709 is a private act brought to me by the Bradford Special School District. It would increase their property tax rate by 16 cents from $1.82 to $1.98, I believe, sir. I renew my motion.
Chairman Halford renews his motion. Any discussion on the bill? Any objection to the question? Seeing none. All those in favor of House Bill 1709, vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed, vote no. It's every member voted. Does any member wish to change their vote? Doggett, aye. Cheryl, aye. Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Aye, 76, 1 nay, 3 present, unvoted.
House Bill 1709, having received a constitutional majority, I hereby declare passed without objection. The motion reconsider is tabled. Call up next bill, Mr. Clerk.
House Bill 105 by Chairman Faison and others relative to residency requirements. Mr. Speaker, the Senate bill is on the desk.
Chairman Faison, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to substitute and conform to Senate Bill 29.
Chairman Faison moves substitute and conform Senate Bill 29, probably second with ordered. Chairman Faison, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move passage of Senate Bill 29 on third and final consideration.
Chairman Faison moves passage of Senate Bill 29 on third and final consideration. Probably second. Mr. Clerk, call up First Amendment.
House Local Government Committee Amendment number 1.
Chairman Crawford, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I roll to the hill.
Without objection, amendment number 1, roll to the hill. Next amendment, Mr. Clerk.
House Amendment 2 by Representative Miller. Mr. Speaker, it was timely filed.
Representative Miller, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this particular amendment would make this bill statewide, but I did receive a resolution from the members of the City Council, and that resolution stated that they were opposed to this bill as a whole. So with that, I'm going to withdraw my amendment.
Objection, amendment number 2, withdrawn. Next amendment, Mr. Clerk.
Amendment number 3 by Representative Miller. Mr. Speaker, it was timely filed.
Representative Miller.
Again, this amendment simply says that if this bill is good enough for Memphis, then why it is not good enough for the rest of the state? And with that, and I would hope that members will understand that. I would not want to impose on you, and this is exactly what this amendment would do. It would come to your community and say, representative from Memphis is asking and requiring you to vote for a bill that impacts your community. I wouldn't want to impose that on you. So with that, I will withdraw this amendment.
Without objection, amendment number 3, withdrawn. Next amendment, Mr. Clerk.
House Amendment 4 by Representative Miller. Mr. Speaker, it was timely filed.
Representative Miller, you're recognized.
Move to withdraw.
Without objection, amendment number 4 withdrawn. Next amendment, Mr. Clerk.
House Amendment 5 by Representative Chisholm. Mr. Speaker, was not timely filed pursuant to our rules. The sponsor is allowed a 1-minute explanation.
Representative Chisholm, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, although I don't agree with singling out a local government and taking away local control from their local government, I'd like to offer a compromise. I want to offer a sunset provision of 2 years. This way, we can test this vehicle out. If it doesn't work, we can try something else. This way, this will prevent us from making a permanent decision on a temporary situation. Mr. Speaker, I move consideration of amendment number 5.
You've heard the motion. We are voting for consideration of amendment number 5. All those in favor of considering amendment number 5, vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed, vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Lynn, no. Sapicki, no. Reagan, no. Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Ayes 20, 63 nays.
In accordance with Rule 60B, having failed to receive the necessary 2/3 vote, the motion to consider amendment number 5 fails. Next amendment, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Speaker, that brings us to the heel of the amendments. House Amendment 1, House Local Government Committee Amendment number 1.
Chairman Crawford, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The amendment rewrites the bill. I move to adopt Local Government Committee Amendment number 1 and defer to the sponsor for an explanation.
Chairman Crawford moves adoption of House Amendment number 1, probably seconded. Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none. All those in favor of adoption of House Amendment number 1 say aye, aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. You adopted. Next amendment, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Speaker, no further amendments.
Chairman Faison, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, last year, I was contacted by the mayor of Memphis, spent some time speaking with him. Over the last several months of my life, I've had the great privilege of meeting the Memphis City Police Chief, Fire Chief, the union bosses for the fire department and the police department, and they've all came to the legislature asking for help. The very people who are in control of these departments of the city of Memphis have said, we need help. We are short-staffed by hundreds for our police department and our fire department. Coupled with that, we see the FBI statistics put Memphis as one of the #1 most violent cities in America. Coupled with that, the city council of Memphis, by a vote of 7 to 6, has denied the police chief the ability to go outside of the guidelines of where she can hire police officers who are willing to come and work and do the job of fighting crime. My first thought is, this is a bill, and I understand the Democrats are frustrated. They say this bill only impacts this one area. And I just want to address that right up front. There are times in life that we have to work on one specific area. Whether it's your car, whether it's your body, there's all sorts of things. And we in Tennessee are all members of one body. But there are times that special attention needs to be on one area. When people say, well, why doesn't this impact other places? Well, to be honest with you, members, there are other places in Tennessee don't have this problem. Where I'm from in East Tennessee, we hire police officers who are willing to work, whether they're in the state or out of the state. We hire police officers that do the job regardless of where they live. The people of Memphis are struggling with that. They wanted to be able to vote on it. They asked for it to be on a referendum. The previous city council actually put it on a referendum, and the next city council came out and took it off the referendum. The people and the leaders of this city are asking us to help them out, to be able to hire more additional officers to fight the violent crimes that's going on in this city, and the same with the fire department. So with that, Mr. Speaker, I renew my motion.
Chairman Faison renews his motion. Any discussion on the bill? Representative Rudd, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's my understanding that this bill is permissive. It does not require the city of Memphis to hire outside their borders. It gives the authorities, the mayor and those in charge of fire and police, to hire outside if they need to. It doesn't make them do it. The people of this city are being threatened and endangered, in my opinion, because of pure partisan political beliefs of a body. And this will enable the city of Memphis to hire outside if they so choose. So thank you for bringing the legislation.
Representative Parkinson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me first of all, let me make sure that we understand what we're doing, because I think there may be. Let me let you understand what the issue is. The issue is not where they hire from. So please make sure you understand that. We don't care if they hire from Fiji. I don't care where they hire from. The issue is where they live once they're hired. That's the issue, not where they're hired from. They hire from out of state, out of town all the time right now. That's not the issue. So let's be clear on that. The issue is where they live once they're hired. And let me be clear on this. I take offense to the fact that this issue is even up here at the state. I take offense to the fact that there's a member from the entire polar opposite end of the state who may have spent cumulative 30 days maybe, and I'm guessing on the non-conservative end of that, in Memphis and Shelby County. I've been there for 30-something years. 30-something years, living in that same community in Memphis and Shelby County. And I find it really interesting that this is being led by a member from Caucus County and not a member from Shelby County. And I don't understand why. Maybe somebody can answer that. But I do have a question for the sponsor. Mr. Sponsor, did you meet with the Memphis City Council?
Chairman Faison.
No, I've not met with them.
Representative Parkinson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It was the Memphis City Council that passed the resolution about making sure or wanting their hirees to live inside of Memphis or Shelby County. Memphis City Council doesn't even regulate it to living inside of Memphis. They said they just want you to live inside the county. It was them that passed the resolution, and I don't understand why everyone else was met with except for the Memphis City Council and except for the members that represent the city. Except for the members here that represent the city of Memphis. I wasn't met with. Nobody came and met with me. I represent these people. And my city council member that I voted for and that many other of us in Memphis voted for, who represents us, was part of the decision that was made. But no one met with any of us. Also, and Mr. Sponsor, since you brought this up, I wasn't going to bring this up. I have issue with the tactics that were used by our top executive and to come up here and lobby, or call you rather, and not call us. The mayor didn't call us. He called you. I have a real issue with that, because that's caused us embarrassment among our colleagues here. And it has further diminished our arguments that we make when these issues of state overreach happen. We've been fighting for the same mayor for other issues that are involving state overreach. And so and I hate to be, because this has also caused a political division within our city and our city council, our state representatives. So I want you to understand the rippling effects of what is happening because of this legislation. Now we have our Republican colleagues up here standing up here, that most of which don't live in the city. And then we have the city council now is at odds and is embarrassed. Then we have your legislators that represent the city that's at odds and embarrassed because no one came to talk to us, even get our feedback when it came to this issue. And it diminishes even our attempts to, when the state overreaches again into the city of Memphis. How do we come to our colleagues and say, hey man, can y'all please back off from the city? It's going to hurt the city, when the top executive has come up here and asked you to do it. I have issue with that. And we don't go back and try to mess up what the mayor is coming up here requesting. We're still, as of today, this morning we had a meeting with the governor. We're still supporting what the mayor wants in regards to the budget for our city. But this is an issue. And here I want you to understand that, and I'm about to wrap up in just a second, Mr. Speaker. This is a city of Memphis issue. The issue is not about recruiting from outside of the city of Memphis. They can recruit outside of the city of Memphis as much as they want. This is about where they live once they are recruited. Listen, the city of Memphis has stated, and I've seen different numbers, but the police department, let's just use the police department for example. I've been told they're down 600 officers. 600 officers. Now I want you to do the math of what 600 officers buying a home in Mississippi or Arkansas looks like. How much money that removes from the city of Memphis, Shelby County, the state of Tennessee. And then we're not even talking about the rippling effect of when they buy their gas, buy their groceries, and everything else that they do with the resources of Tennessee going into another state. These individuals, and I need y'all to get this. These individuals, and keep in mind, I was fire department for 25 years, and I had to live in Shelby County. These individuals will receive a check at some point between $75,000 and $150,000. $75,000 and $150,000. Now, if my city is good enough to write you a check for $75,000 to $150,000, is it not good enough for you to live in? Yes, I have issue with that. Yes, I have issue with opening the floodgates and sending our state resources, our middle class who carries the tax burden in not just Memphis, but in our state, out to other states, to surrounding states. And I hope that y'all find issue with that too, because we need to keep all of our tax revenue, all of our resources right here in the state of Tennessee. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chairman Bond.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I appreciate my colleague from Shelby County's passion about this, and he was busy throwing some numbers out there frankly, I think this is different than numbers. But while we're talking about numbers, I've got some for you. 2019 was approximately a little over 200. That's the number for you to remember. 2020, let's stay with the number 320. Through 2021, there's number 343. That's the number of homicide deaths in Memphis. Status quo is not working. People are afraid. This is a city I love. This is a city I was born in. It's the city where my children live. And for us to turn a blind eye while there's turf wars going on about public safety and people's lives, I just say no more. If we have to make the tough decisions in order to stop murders in Memphis, or at least praise, hopefully, Lord hear us, that we reduce it, then that's what this body needs to do. For the love of the people of Memphis. Not for us to try to embarrass anybody, not for us to try to rule with an iron fist, but people need relief from a rising murder rate. And I'm not a criminal justice expert, but I have to believe that more police officers can put a dent in it. That's the motivation for this bill, and I would ask for your support of it.
Representative Parkinson, out of order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And let's be clear, and to my colleague from Shelby County, 343 murders. I live in that city where there's 343 murders. My colleague does not. I live in that city where there's 343 murders. So don't get it twisted that as if we don't care that there's 343 murders. We live with it. But we also understand this. We're in a metro area of 1.2, 1.3 million people. You cannot tell me in 1.3 million people, there are not 600 police officers that are qualified. This is not about being soft on murder, so please don't try to paint that picture again, ever. This is about us getting those officers. Now, if we want to get those officers, then doggone it, we need to compete with the Microsoft. We need to compete with the Amazons. We need to compete with everyone else that's out there offering jobs. Let's get competitive so we can get those 600 officers. But you cannot tell me that with 1.3 million people in the surrounding area that you cannot find 600 officers. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Gillespie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And to my colleague from Shelby County, first of all, I do live in Memphis. And
He didn't call your name. He did not call your name. Gillespie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I do live in Memphis, and I have been working on this with our city council members, current and past, for the past 3.5 years. This is not an overnight issue. This is an issue that has to be addressed. And I am not a public safety expert, but I am listening to the public safety experts out there, and all of them in unison are all saying the same thing, that the city of Memphis needs more police officers. It is that simple. Now, I also want to explain something else. Right now, of 2,000 police officers that do serve the city of Memphis, almost half of them already are grandfathered in and do not live in the city of Memphis. They show up to work every day. They do their job. They do a great job. I don't see there's any reason whatsoever why we should hold them accountable or change the way that they show up to work, because clearly they are doing that. And with that said, thank you.
Representative Chisholm.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I also live in Memphis, and I live in a part of Memphis that you would call, some of you all call battleground. I live where a lot of crime happens. I still live there, and I'm proud to be there. But this bill is not only about where our officers and our firefighters and our first responders live. It's about local control. With this bill, we have a state takeover of the hiring practice of a municipality. Now, I would actually vote for the bill if it included all of Tennessee, but it does not. It only includes Memphis. So if I have to agree with my colleague where I say, if it's good enough for Memphis, it has to be good enough for Tennessee. And if it's not good enough for Tennessee, it's not good enough for Memphis. Now, we are a little short. So is everybody else that is hiring. Many of us have seen businesses. We've seen our hospitals. We've seen our police departments. We've seen everybody be short. But we do not want to make a permanent decision here on a temporary situation. Because due to the things that have happened over the last couple of years, many entities have been short. And I do not believe us being short is a reason to have such a great overreach. So I ask you, my colleagues, to consider talking about this a little bit more and try to come up with something that's more palatable for everyone. Because Memphis is still a great city. Memphis does need some help, but I believe we have that help in our backyard. And if we really look for those officers within our city, we will find them. But more so than that, this is about local control. Thank you, members. Thank you, Speaker.
Representative Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in support of this bill today. When I first came to the legislature, I was told that state government, that local government is an outpost of state government, that they don't have any ability to operate outside what we as a state allow them to do. The facts is that we're here today because some petty local politics has hamstrung the leadership in the community, of which the murder rate is rising at an astronomical rate. And instead of doing all that we can do to help our local communities, we're frustrated and angry because somebody didn't ask us to carry the bill to fix it. Meanwhile, while people in Memphis are losing their lives and their safety's in jeopardy, what we're doing is saying, well, we just want their property taxes or we want their sales tax. Well, there's no life that is so menial that the attainment of property taxes isn't that important. They have 600 officers that they can't hire today. Our communities have issues hiring officers as well. The facts of the matter is Microsoft doesn't have a requirement that somebody has to live within 5 miles of their headquarters in order to work there. Only here do we do that. My community would love to hire more police officers, but the fact of the matter is we had in budget sub the other day a testimony about where a family from Memphis came up here and they testified to our committee about how their 12-year-old child was murdered and shot in their own home on Christmas Day. We have a fiduciary duty as the responsible governing body of this state who allows for outposts of local government to operate to pass this bill today and give them the resources they need. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Out of order. Chairman White, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And a few words. I moved to Memphis in 1966. I still live in the city limits of Memphis 56 years later, and I represent for the past 13 years the city of Memphis. Let me tell you, Memphis is a beautiful and a wonderful city. You know, it's the most philanthropic city in the country. It's usually only in the country, and it's even beats out Utah, where Salt Lake City is. It's a beautiful city. But we have an issue right now with crime. It continues to go up. Just to lay out a few things now, the city of Memphis, they offer sign-on bonuses of $10,000 and still can't get enough. So the money is there. We have a nonpartisan Shelby County luncheon every Wednesday. 2 weeks ago, Mayor Strickland was up telling us about this. So we've known about this for years. This has been an issue for many, many years. I want to make one other point. We just had a census in this state, in this country. We had 14 state representatives from Shelby County. Now, a lot of people don't know in Shelby County, there's Memphis, there's Germantown, Collierville, Lakeland, Arlington, Bartlett, and Millington. And those other 6 municipalities are also affected by what goes on within the city limits of Memphis. And they're asking for help. So we had 14 state representatives. Tennessee grew by about 500,000 people last year, mostly in central Tennessee. We didn't grow at all. You know why? People want 3 things. They don't want a debate where people live. They want safe streets. They want quality schools. And they want jobs. And you don't get jobs without safe streets and quality schools. That's all we're asking for in this. And to have a debate about where a law enforcement officer lives, in my opinion, is just ridiculous. Thank you.
Representative Mitchell.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, I'm not going to stand up here and pretend I was ever leaning toward voting for this bill. I wanted to listen to the argument. And the leader, I think you said something that, you know, after taking an oath to office here, swearing that I would never vote for anything knowingly unconstitutional, you know, I think I heard you say, yeah, this is intended just for Memphis. And I think the Tennessee Constitution, Article 11, Section 9 says, any act of the General Assembly, private or local, in form or effect applicable to a particular county or municipality, either in its governmental or proprietary capacity, shall be void. Well, you said on the House floor your legislative intent was just that. That deems it unconstitutional under the home rule provision of the state constitution. So I think everyone in here who swore their oath has to vote against your legislation because they know I just put them on notice of the section of the Constitution they're violating. And you stood up there and said it's your intent for this to only affect Memphis. Thank you.
Representative Camper.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker and members, part of the problem we have here, and particularly with how Memphis is treated and painted, we paint a really dire situation in Memphis. #1 for violent crimes, and a lot of that do drive people away. But when you look at the actual numbers that's used to drive that, it takes in Tipton County, Fayette County, Shelby County, Marshall County, Mississippi, Tate County, Mississippi, DeSoto County, Mississippi, and Crittenden County, Arkansas, and then Memphis and Shelby County. So when you add all 8 of those entities, 7 counties in the city of Memphis, then yeah, it looks like we rise to the top as #1 in the nation for being the worst this and that. But when you bag them out, you take out all of those various counties, Memphis is farther down the list. So part of our problem is we creating this situation where it looks like Memphis is this place. Now, I'm not discounting Memphis or any other city for its problems, its crime. It's not just Memphis, it's everywhere. But I want us to be clear about where these numbers come from. And think about that as we move forward with trying to grow Memphis, trying to get citizens back. That the city of Memphis, we have our problems, but we're doing great things as well. So let's not paint this dire picture as if we're the worst city in the country when it comes to violent crimes, because the city of Memphis is not. It takes in all those other counties. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Gillespie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to point something out, that some of the numbers that have been mentioned here are specific to the city of Memphis. They're reporting, they're not part of the MSA statistics. So I do want to just go ahead and put that on the record, that we are talking about very specific numbers here. And I also do want to follow up with what my colleague from Shelby County just said. Memphis is a beautiful place. It is a great place to live. We have the best barbecue, and we have great music, great history, great people. This is nothing against the city of Memphis, but I do believe, and I believe many of you believe, and our citizens believe, that our rising crime level, whether it's property crime, violent crime, or homicides, are keeping us back. They are holding us back, and we have to get a grasp on that. Thank you.
Representative Calfee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I believe it's been pointed out
in subcommittee and committee and here on the floor that this is a permissive bill. It don't make them do anything. Now, I've never lived in Memphis, but my son went to law school there. And at the time he graduated, University of Memphis Law School was the #1 in the country for the students, graduating students, to pass the bar exam the first time. Now, if we pass this, Memphis has another tool in their toolbox to keep people safe. If the city council, which has been mentioned many times here, is good with the status quo, with undernumbered firemen, and if you go into a fire, you want quite a bit of backup. They're understaffed in the police department, and if you're in a dire situation, you want plenty of backup and you want them close by. So if we pass this, and I'm confident it will, and the city council is happy with the status quo in houses burning down or business burning down or murders or rapes or drug deals or whatever, then they'll just choose not to fund this. So that's the end of the story. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Garrett.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have tried to listen to both our colleagues from Shelby County on both sides this issue and also others that have spoke. And it seems like we're down to one issue. We should never let political bickering be the result of sacrificing the public's safety. It seems like we might have that here for our folks and citizens and Tennesseans that live in Shelby County. Then we hear an issue that while we can recruit police officers, first responders, our EMS, our ambulance drivers, we don't mind if they come out of Shelby County, but what's gonna happen when we live here? When they move here, are they gonna stay there? Are they gonna move to Shelby? Will they live somewhere else? And I would ask everyone in this chamber, if you've had a loved one that had an incident, a heart attack, and there's a police officer, there's a first responder, there's someone standing near them that then wants to save that person's life, are you going to prevent that because you're going to ask, where do you live? Then that life-saving protection, not only for someone that's in dire stress, but may be faced in a criminal activity, are you going to say to that person, do not save this person's life, do not prevent this crime because you don't live here? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Hardaway.
Thank you, Speaker Sexton. Let me start off by saying I'm not angry and I ain't frustrated. So with all due respect to my colleagues, I think that everyone out of Shelby County is angry or frustrated. I'm neither. I'm confident in my competence to represent my constituency as they have directed me to do so. I have extensive conversations with my constituents on a regular basis about crime. I know what they want. I know they do not want directives from the Tennessee General Assembly that goes to the mayor and bypasses the city council. I don't know what this discussion about permissiveness is all about. I'm going to ask the sponsor, if it's locally permissive, does that mean that the local legislative body has to vote in order for it to be implemented?
Chairman Faison.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative, when they say permissive, they are saying this bill does not force your police chief or your firefighter chief to hire anybody from anywhere. It just gives them the ability to hire, if they choose so, from somebody outside of Shelby County. And it would overstep or supersede the local government.
Representative Hardaway.
Thank you, sponsor. And would it supersede any other local government in the great state of Tennessee if that local government decides to hire or decides not to hire and puts it into policy?
Chairman Faison.
If there is another community that has issues like this, we would address that too.
Representative Hardaway.
Thank you, sir. So is that an affirmative to what I asked, that it does not apply to any other mayor? It does not apply to any other local legislative body?
Chairman Faison.
Correct.
Representative Hardaway.
Thank you. I don't see how we reconcile this bill with the state constitution. It ain't gonna happen. If it's got statewide application, fine. Let whatever it is that you recommend for Memphis be good enough for you to accept it in your community. Now, our mayor, Mayor Strickland, did come up here to the Shelby County Legislative Delegation Luncheon, and at that time, he did not state that he was supporting this bill. He did not state that this bill was moving forward with the sponsorship of someone, with all due respect to the majority chair, that doesn't live in Memphis. Let me tell you how we got in the position we're in Memphis. Our current mayor used to be a city council person. Our current mayor used to be the chairman of the budget committee. As you all know, the budget is a legislative animal. The city council determines the city budget the same as the state legislature determines the state budget. Mayor Strickland was the chairman of the budget committee for city council. Mr. Sponsor, I really want you to hear this. I really want you to hear this, sir. I think you'll find this pertinent. Mayor Strickland was the chairman of the committee, the budget committee for the Memphis City Council. And he directed the cut in benefits for the Memphis Police Department. He's the one that ran our Memphis Finest away. The same reason they left can be the same reason they come back. If the mayor wants to take the initiative to undo what he did as city council budget chair, now that he's mayor, take that same energy and put it into restoring full benefits to the first responders and increasing the pay for first responders to be competitive. If you're not getting any bites, it means you're using the wrong bait. That's simple. So this bill is wrong on so many levels, Mr. Sponsor. It's wrong because you and your co-sponsors, although I appreciate all of my Shelby County Legislative delegation members, it's wrong because you are attempting to bypass the city council and give authority to the mayor in spite of the city council who sets policy for the mayor. This would be the same as having Congress direct the governor to ignore the Tennessee General Assembly. That's not the way government works. I'm not coming into your hometown and try to bypass the elected representatives of the people. If my folks don't like what I do, they'll vote me out. If they don't like what the city council is doing, they will vote them out. So we don't need the Tennessee General Assembly telling the mayor what to do. The mayor's job is to do what city council tells him to do. They set city policy. They set the city policy. His job is to execute it. I have another question for the sponsor, Speaker. TBI, Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. THP, the Tennessee Highway Patrol. Will this bill impact the residency requirements for them?
Chairman Faison.
No.
Representative Hardaway.
Are they obligated to hire? Do they have policy where they're obligated to hire from within the state of Tennessee?
Chairman Faison.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The gentleman from Shelby County would have reminded that the state of Tennessee can't pass laws for people that contract with us that only keep you inside the state of Tennessee. There have been multiple times since I've been elected that a member will bring it and try to change the law in Tennessee that we contract and use employees that are only based in Tennessee. Every time that's been struck down because it's not constitutional.
Representative Hardaway.
And it's unconstitutional to force those who are employed by TBI to live within the state of Tennessee?
Chairman Faison.
That has been my understanding.
Representative Hardaway.
And is it unconstitutional for the Tennessee Highway Patrol to require that their officers, their employees, live within the great state of Tennessee?
Chairman Faison.
Representative, that has been my understanding. We will do further due diligence after this and make sure of that and get back with you. But from my understanding, we don't have those requirements as a state.
Representative Hardaway.
Thank you, Speaker. To the sponsor, you may want to, well, my research indicates that they do have the policy. So I would really be surprised if your research indicates otherwise. But now that you voiced your opinion that it's unconstitutional, I'm kind of wondering where that leaves us with their hiring policies. But I can tell you this, members, and I told you this when we talked about the vouchers. I told you this when we talked about the Memphis City schools and the surrendering of the charter. We're going to court. We're going to be in court. We're going to waste more taxpayer dollars so that the courts can tell us that this bill is unconstitutional because it only applies to Memphis, Tennessee. to the mayor of Memphis, Tennessee. And I asked the sponsor with all due respect, why? Why does it only apply to Memphis, Tennessee, when every city in Tennessee has crime and every city in Tennessee has law enforcement?
Chairman Faison.
If we had the same issues in every other city, the bill would impact all of that as well.
Representative Hardaway.
Thank you, Speaker. We have issues similar to what everybody else has. However, what we also have is the ability to come to the General Assembly and to get a consensus on how to take a comprehensive approach to crime. Someone cited a bill that I'm carrying as a reason to support this. Not true. The roots of crime are many. The approach to curing the excessive crime wave that we have needs to be as comprehensive as the complexities of the problem itself. This won't do it. If having more police officers determined how much crime we were going to have, if it would take it down to zero, I'd vote for 1 million officers. And I'd vote that the state would fund this mandate that they're putting down on the local level, which, by the way, is also a constitutional issue of unfunded mandates. So I urge you, all of my colleagues, to pay attention to the constitutional issues, but also to pay attention to the fact that we have an elected body. You don't want the Tennessee General Assembly skipping the authority of your aldermen or your city council people, and your constituents wouldn't have you do it. They wouldn't stand for it. So I'm asking you to follow your oath for constitutional support and vote no on this bill. I appreciate what my colleagues think they're doing. I respectfully disagree. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Warner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I call for the previous question.
Previous question been called. Any objection? Seeing none, we are voting. All those in favor of Senate Bill 29 as amended, vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed, vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Vaughn, aye. We are voting on the bill. Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Ayes 56, 19 nays, 5 present, none voting.
Senate Bill 29 having received a constitutional majority, I hereby declare passed without objection. The motion reconsider is tabled. Call up next bill, Mr. Clerk.
House Bill 1798 by Chairman Reagan, relative to local government planning advisory committee. Mr. Speaker, the Senate bill is on the desk.
Chairman Reagan, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to substitute and conform to Senate Bill 1717.
Chairman Reagan moves to substitute and conform to Senate Bill 1717, probably second without objection. So ordered. Chairman Reagan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move passage of Senate Bill 1717 on third and final consideration.
Chairman Reagan moves passage of Senate Bill 1717 on third and final consideration. Probably second. Mr. Clerk, call up the First Amendment.
House Government Operations Committee Amendment number 1. Mr. Speaker, same as Senate Amendment number 1.
Chairman Reagan, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I defer to my colleague, Vice Chair Reedy.
Representative Reedy, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Same as the Senate amendment. Move to withdraw.
Without objection, amendment number 1 withdrawn. Next amendment, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Speaker, no further amendments.
Chairman Reagan, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. By way of brief explanation, as amended, this bill will extend local government planning advisory committee to 2025. With that explanation, I renew my motion.
Chairman Reagan renews his motion. Any discussion on the bill? Seeing none, any objection to the question? Seeing none. All those in favor of Senate Bill 1717 as amended, vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed, vote no. As every member casts their vote, see a member wish to change their vote. Ms. Clerk, please take the vote.
Ayes 83, no nays.
Senate Bill 1717 having received constitutional majority, I hereby declare passed without objection. Motion reconsider is tabled. Let the journal reflect Representative Boyd and Calfee are excused. Call up the next bill, Mr. Clerk.
House Bill 1651 by Chairman Howell.
Chairman Howell, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to roll 1651 for 2 weeks, please.
Without objection, roll 2 weeks. Call up the next bill, Mr. Clerk.
House Bill 1766 by Chairman Powell and others relative to bail. Mr. Speaker, the Senate bill is on the desk.
Chairman Howell, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to substitute and conform to Senate Bill 1793.
Chairman Howell moves to substitute and conform to Senate Bill 1793 without objection. So ordered. Chairman Howell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move passage of Senate Bill 1793 on third and final consideration.
Chairman Howell moves passage of Senate Bill 1793 on third and final consideration. Call for second. Mr. Clerk, call for First Amendment.
Mr. Speaker, no amendments filed.
Chairman Howell, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill came to me, members, from the District Attorneys Association. It seeks to close a loophole in state law. This bill adds convictions of continuous sexual abuse of a child to the list of offenses that require a judge to revoke the defendant's bail immediately upon conviction. This list would include, for example, first-degree murder, aggravated kidnapping, rape, aggravated sexual battery, and this would add continuous sexual abuse of child to that list. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I renew my motion.
Chairman Howell renews his motion. Any discussion on the bill? Any objection to the question? Seeing none. All those in favor of Senate Bill 1793 vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed vote no. Has every member voted? Does every member wish to change their vote? Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Ayes 83, no nays.
Senate Bill 1793 having received the constitutional majority, I hereby declare it passed without objection. The motion reconsider is tabled. Call the next bill, Mr. Clerk.
House Bill 1652 by Chairman Howell and others relative to subscription services.
Chairman Howell, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move passage of House Bill 1652 on third and final consideration.
Chairman Howell moves passage, properly seconded. Mr. Clerk, call it First Amendment.
House Commerce Committee Amendment number 1.
Chairman Vaughn, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Move for adoption of Amendment 1.
Chairman Vaughn moves adoption of Amendment number 1, properly seconded. Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none. All those in favor of Amendment number 1 say aye, aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. You adopted. Next amendment, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Speaker, no further amendments.
Chairman Howell, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, this is a consumer protection bill. It came to me from a constituent in my district. Those probably many of us have been caught up in that vortex or black hole of various kinds of subscription services, as my constituent did. And this bill simply says if you unknowingly, unwittingly, or even willingly are subscribed to a service online, you will be provided online with a way to unsubscribe. And that's the essence of the bill. Mr. Speaker, I renew my motion.
Chairman Howell renews his motion. Any discussion on the bill? Representative Parkinson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to say thank you.
Very nice. Representative Lafferty.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just one, at a quick glance of the reading, it almost looks to me like we exclude quasi-governmental agencies throughout this. Could you clarify that for me, please?
Chairman Howell.
Absolutely. Thank you for the question. This bill seeks to address those bad actors, such as a certain satellite radio company and their various financial agencies that send out on a constant basis these subscriptions to their financial advice columns, and it's difficult to unsubscribe. But this bill does not address, for example, those agencies that are regulated by the FDIC, the National Credit Union Association, groups heavily regulated already, such as the Federal Energy Commission, and state agencies that are under Title 56. These are not the problem issues, but this addresses those bad actors.
Representative Lafferty.
Thank you. Appreciate that explanation. As somebody that once paid a penny for 12 records, I appreciate this. Thank you.
Representative Ogles.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. to the sponsor, does this cover the people that are calling my cell phone about my car warranty every day?
Chairman Howe.
I think only if they have subscribed you to a service, it would cover that. And I have that same problem, by the way.
Very good. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Any objection to the question? Seeing none. All those in favor of House Bill 1652 as amended, vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed, vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change your vote? Ms. Clerk, please take the vote.
Ayes 84, no nays.
House Bill 1652, having received a constitutional majority, everybody declare passed without objection. The motion to reconsider is tabled. Call up next bill, Mr. Clerk.
House Bill 1763 by Leader Lamberth and others relative to drug paraphernalia.
Leader Lamberth, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Move passage of House Bill 1763 on third and final consideration.
Leader Lamberth moves passage, probably seconded. Mr. Clerk, call up First Amendment.
House Criminal Justice Committee Amendment Number 1.
Chairman Kershaw, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Criminal Justice Committee Amendment Number 1 includes pieces of a pill press in addition to the entire press itself. In the definition of drug paraphernalia, I move to adopt.
Chairman Kershaw moves adoption of Amendment Number 1, probably seconded. Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none. All those in favor of Amendment Number 1 say aye, aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. You adopted. Next amendment, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Speaker, no further amendments.
Leader Lamberth, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I renew my motion.
Leader Lamberth renews his motion. Any discussion on the bill? Seeing none. Any objection to the question? Seeing none. All those in favor of House Bill 1763 as amended, vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed, vote no. As every member voted, does any member wish to change their vote? Speak, yeah. Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Ayes 81, nay.
House Bill 1763, having received a constitutional majority, everybody declare passed without objection. Motion to reconsider is tabled. Call up next bill, Mr. Clerk.
House Bill 1867 by Chairman Zachary and others relative to COVID-19. Mr. Speaker, the Senate bill is on the desk.
Chairman Zachary, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to substitute and conform to Senate Bill 1823.
Chairman Zachary moves to substitute and conform to Senate Bill 1823, probably second without objection. So ordered. Chairman Zachary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move passage of Senate Bill 1823 on third and final consideration.
Chairman Zachary moves passage of Senate Bill 1823 on third and final consideration, probably second. Mr. Clerk, call up First Amendment.
House Civil Justice Committee Amendment Number 1, Mr. Speaker, same as Senate Amendment Number 1.
Chairman Russell, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Civil Justice Committee Amendment 1 is the same as the Senate amendment. I move to withdraw.
Without objection, Amendment Number 1 withdrawn. Next amendment, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Speaker, no further amendments.
Chairman Zachary, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, this piece of legislation will preserve and protect the jobs of our healthcare workers who have served us so diligently for the last 2 years. It only applies to COVID-19 and only applies if a CMS mandate is in effect. With that, I renew my motion.
Chairman Zachary renews his motion. Any discussion on the bill? Any objection to the question? Seeing none. All those in favor of Senate Bill 1823 as amended, vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed, vote no. As every member voted, does every member wish to change their vote? Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Ayes 64, 18 nays.
House Bill 18, Senate Bill 1823, having received a constitutional majority, I hereby declare passed without objection. The motion to reconsider is tabled. Call up next bill, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Speaker, that completes the regular calendar.
Next order, Mr. Clerk.
Unfinished business.
Unfinished business. Representative Moody, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to withdraw House Bill 1309 from the committee and the House.
You've heard the motion. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. Representative King.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask for the withdrawal of House Bill 1888 from the committee in the House.
For the motion, any objections? Without objection, so ordered. Representative Howe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. After consulting with both leaders, I move that the rules be suspended for immediate consideration of SJR 1106.
Mr. Clerk, please read the caption.
Senate Joint Resolution 1106 by Chairman Howe, a resolution to honor and congratulate Lyndall C. Granny Bromley on the celebration of her 100th birthday.
You've heard the caption. Any objections? Without objection, the rules are suspended. Representative Howe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to concur with SJR 1106.
Representative Howe moves to concur in Senate Joint Resolution 1106, properly seconded. Any objection to the question? Seeing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. I declare it concurred in. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is tabled. Representative Parkinson, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, after consulting both leaders, I move the rules be suspended for immediate introduction and consideration of HJR 870.
Mr. Clerk, please read the caption.
House Joint Resolution 870 by Representative Parkinson and others, a resolution to recognize and honor Reverend Harold A. Middlebrook of Knoxville.
You've heard the caption. Any objections? Without objection, the rules are suspended. Representative Parkinson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move adoption of HJR number 870.
Representative Parkinson moves adoption of House Joint Resolution 870, properly seconded. Any objection to the question? Seeing none. All those in favor of House Joint Resolution 870 say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. I declare it adopted. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is tabled. Leader Lambert, you're recognized. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And if consulting with the minority leader, we have several rule suspensions just to get bills into committee in the posture that they need to be for this week. With that, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that House Bill 2536 be heard in the Property and Planning Subcommittee next week.
You've heard the motion. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. Leader Lambert.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that House Bill 2703 and House Bill 2088 be heard in the Finance Subcommittee this next week.
You've heard the motion. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. Leader Lambert.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that House Bill 859 be heard in the Banking and Consumer Affairs Subcommittee next week.
You've heard the motion. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. Leader Lambert.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that House Bill 1954 be heard in K through 12 Subcommittee next week.
You've heard the motion. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. Leader Lambert.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that House Bill 1870 be heard in the Health Subcommittee next week.
You've heard the motion. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. Next order, Mr. Clerk.
Announcements.
Announcements. Representative Whitson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, the last calendar for Transportation Subcommittee will be 8 March. If you want your bills to be heard, you need to put them on notice by 3:30 next Wednesday, 3 March. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Hawk.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, the final calendar of the Insurance Subcommittee will be heard on Tuesday, March the 8th. The last day to put bills on notice for that final calendar will be next Wednesday, March the 2nd. Once again, the final calendar for Insurance Subcommittee will be heard on Tuesday, March 8th. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members.
Representative Reagan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Joint Government Operations Committee monthly rule review this upcoming Monday, February the 28th, will be at 10 a.m. in House Hearing Room 1. Members who are on that committee, please remember that we did not have a meeting this past Monday, so we're going to have some extra things on there. That will be followed by our full House Government Operations Committee meeting at 1:30 p.m. in House Hearing Room 1. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Vaughn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Both the Business and Utilities Subcommittee as well as the Banking and Consumer Subcommittee will hear their final calendars on Wednesday, March 9th. Like the others, Wednesday, March 2nd is the last day to put your bill on notice at 3:30. If you wish to have a bill heard this year, the train is soon leaving the station in the Commerce section. Thank you.
Representative Powell, did I see your hand up earlier? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Speaker. Chairman, that was a nice segue to what I was going to announce, which is the formation of the Train Travel Caucus in the Tennessee General Assembly. Any members that are interested in expanding train service across the state of Tennessee for passenger rail, this is the time for Tennessee to do that. There's a lot of movement with the infrastructure bill that's passed, $66 billion going specifically to rail. And Nashville is the 3rd largest city without Amtrak in the country. Knoxville is the 7th largest city in the country without Amtrak, and Chattanooga is the 19th largest. There's a lot of other communities and great opportunities. The current proposal that has come out from Amtrak shows a line coming from Atlanta to Chattanooga with stops in Tullahoma, Murfreesboro, and Nashville. There's a lot of excitement about a track coming to Bristol. We want to make sure it doesn't just stop in Bristol, it goes through Bristol. And of course, we want to take this across the state. So any of you that are interested, we want to make this a bipartisan effort. I've had a lot of members come up to me and express willingness to be a part of it. So I really appreciate that. We want to make this a bipartisan effort to help the state of Tennessee increase passenger rail service and make sure that we are ahead and all on board for passenger rail in the state of Tennessee. So if you're interested and thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the time and for speaking to me about this. If you are interested, please see me, Representative Hakeem. Representative Manis is also assisting, and Representative Crawford agreed to sign on. If any of those members, please see us, and we'd love to have you as a member of the Tennessee Train Travel Caucus. Thank you.
Representative Hazelwood.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just to remind those on finance, we are not having budget hearings this afternoon.
Out of love. It's totally out of love.
I expected tears, not jeers. But we will resume Monday morning at 9 o'clock. So we expect to see you there Monday morning, bright and early, 9 o'clock. Thank you.
Representative Russell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Civil Justice Subcommittee will hear its final calendar on Tuesday, March the 8th. Please put your bills on notice by next Wednesday, March the 2nd, by 3:30 p.m. if you wish to have your bill heard at Civil Justice Subcommittee this year. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Representative Ramsey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to let everybody know that has a bill headed for our Health Committee in the House that the Health Subcommittee will be compiling its final calendar on March the 8th. You need to file your bills by March 2nd at 3:30. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Representative Hardaway.
Mr. Speaker, it's actually Dwayne Thompson.
Okay, we were just discussing the train caucus, and just wanted to mention that there is one city in this state that does have Amtrak, and it is also one of the largest train centers in the United States. And the gateway to the west from Tennessee is Memphis, Tennessee. So I'm definitely want to be involved in the train travel caucus. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, we're looking forward to having all of the legislature in a couple of club cars from Nashville to Memphis, Tennessee. Barbecue all the way.
Next order, Mr. Clerk.
Roll call.
Roll call. Ms. Clerk, please take the roll.
Mr. Speaker, 83 members present.
Next order, Ms. Clerk.
That completes the regular order, Mr. Speaker.
Leader Lamberth, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Move that the House stand in recess until 5 p.m. on Monday, February the 28th, 2022.
Without objection, the House stands recessed till 5 p.m. on Monday, February 28, 2022.